Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. We are joined today by our guest, Sreehari Jagannathan from SaaS Genie, and we are excited to have our unique podcast today where we dive into AI in managed services and how it is helping a lot of the folks in the ITSM world. So without me spoiling the surprise, let's dive in here and we'll have our guest introduce himself. And
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I am very excited to be here. And to whomsoever is listening, thank you for joining in today. We really appreciate your time. As you rightly said, I work at SaaS Genie today where I head growth. I come with like close to 15 years of experience with about 8 of them in like SaaS and AI. So I've worked with Freshworks in different capacities, and SaaS Genie is a little birdie that came out of like the Freshworks school of thought. And we have our CEO, who's Raj, who headed the VP of Professional Services at Freshworks, and so it's been 24 months, close to 24 months at SaaS Genie, and right now I take care of all things marketing.
excellent. Pleasure to have you here. If I may call you Shri.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
All right. Shri, thank you for being here. I know it's top of the evening for you, but definitely appreciate you making a time on the weekend, especially to join us and enlighten our listeners on what you guys are doing over there. So at Growth Amped, we help IT service providers scale their revenue and grow their business. So I'm always learning from leaders such as yourself, and really the goal of this podcast is to help explore how IT leaders are navigating their challenges, discussing some key technologies at play, as well as generating thought leadership for current and future industry leaders. So appreciate you being here. So for some of our first time listeners, before we get into the meat of the podcast, we start off with Shree's company background and industry trends that they're seeing. And then we'll talk a little bit about current challenges and explore where SaaS Genie sees themselves in the near term as well as the long term. And then finally, we'll wrap up the conversation with any follow ups or organic topics that come out. So, Shree, are you ready to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to give you a little bit of background about SaaS Genie, if you go to our website, it just says it in 5 words. Our value prop is we help customers modernize their ITSM and customer experience, and we help them do it fast. Now, how do we do that? We are partnered with some expert products in the SaaS and the AI side of things. We are certified partners of like Freshworks, Atlassian, Halo, Atomic Work, Rocket Lane, and a few others, Intercom. So these are the bunch of partners, and we are growing. We just announced a partnership with Zoom, and we are helping ship and sell Zoom Contact Center to like a lot of businesses worldwide. Just a bit of background, like I rightly said, I think we are a little birdie out of Freshworks. So Raj, who was instrumental in like setting up professional services in Freshworks, he kind of came out with a thought that, you know what, professional services could be done much better. It's always clunky, costly, and by the time customers go live with their products, they start asking about ROI and they see very little. And so there's a lot of dissatisfaction and friction there. And we wanted to modernize the way we go about delivery as such. Raj and Dom and Rashmi, who are our 3 founders, they sat in a room and came up with the idea where, what if we did professional services but reimagined it for ITSM and customer support, but because that's the bread and butter, they've been there for like 20 years. And so we are doing a couple of things, obviously, like trying to elevate our delivery and services with the way we think and with our frameworks. But most importantly, what we're also doing is we are building accelerators that are agentic that will actually help amplify professional services. Now, typically, if you, I'm sure Ayan, you have looked at all the agentic and the AI trends that are happening in the world. Most of them are about, BDRs, AI customer support, and AI in marketing and all of that. Nobody's really actually thinking about AI in professional services where so much of redundancy is there. For example, one of the areas that we picked was data migrations, due to which, like, I think so many go lives are stalled and people even hesitate to go live because they can't transfer data from one system to the other, which in its historic context is absolutely necessary. So we have just built an AI accelerator for data migration that we are using internally that we've seen is reduce costs by 35% and is migrating data faster because we are using AI for things that human beings find a little complicated without actually trying to replace them, which is a concern, right? So that's a little bit about what we do. And that's our mission as well, to make sure delivery is uncomplicated in a certain way.
No, thank you for that introduction. That being said, as the head of growth, tell us a little bit about your role and how you fit in with the large, big picture here.
Yeah, I think my job is to make sure that people find value with the services that we have. How people discover us is one of our major goals. And my primary KPI is that people discover more about SaaS Genie, the brand is out there, and how we drive revenue, how we market ourselves, whether it's streamlining the inbound playbook or the setting up the outbound. Most of it is like handled by me at the minute. And primarily my day looks like running a multi-product GTM org because we have all of these partners and our job is to like best position and sell these tools to like customers who are fit. I mean, like, sorry, who find a product market fit within that. So that's precisely how our day looks like. So more branding, more value generation, more lead generation is predominantly where I'm focused at the minute with my team.
Got it. You talked about uh, a little bit about this. Let's talk a little bit about what platforms it is that you support as of today.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we fall under three major buckets or categories that we support. One is IT service management because we think there's a lot of enterprise complexity there. So we are partnered with like modern ITSM partner platforms, which offer like AI within. So if you look at our partnerships, obviously we are partners of Freshworks. We are partnered with Atlassian for people who are looking to like move to a tighter IT DevOps integration space. Halo ITSM is one of the disruptors in the market today, if I may call that, because they are offering ITSM or reimagining ITSM in like a entirely different way. We also are partnered with Atomic Work, who are like new off the block, but they are AI native ITSM. So for anybody who's setting up IT today, so we try and partner with products that cover every kind of customer, ranging from somebody starting to like maybe large enterprises. So we want to make sure that we have a lot of options because every customer is different and every requirement is different. Having said that, on like the customer experience front, again, Freshworks has a customer's experience tool as well in Freshdesk. We help customers deploy Freshdesk, and we are partnered with Intercom in this space who are creating a lot of like right kind of noise with like their agentic progression with Fin AI that's coming up. And like I rightly said, we are also partnered with Zoom Contact Center, which we announced last month. Everything customer support, help desk, agentic on the customer support side of things or the experience side of things. That's another area where we are focused on. We are also going into professional services automation. So we are partnered with Rocket Lane, who's one of the primary disruptors, which is in a traditionally an enterprise space where the likes of Oracle and financial foes and the likes of these have operated. But you now have Halo PSA, Rocket Lane, a couple of those offerings as well. So these are the three primary buckets in which we are operating at the minute. And obviously we help with AI optimization and consultation as we go along and help customers deploy and implement these tools.
Got it. Oh, perfect. So, given your role, what does a typical day look like for you? And I'm sure not every day is the same, right? What's your typical day like?
I think it's generally starts with like a marketing stand up with like all of my folks. So we start with like a lot of content creation, whether it's social media, community on Reddit, or website and like blogs and all of those things. That's where our day starts typically, because we live in a day where content is moving from like Google to AI or LLMs a lot more. So that's one of our primary focus areas as we build a brand and like as we provide value to customers. Apart from that, we do host regular webinars. We do have events that we partner with our fellow solution partners that we're tied up with. So a lot of it goes into event planning, execution, field marketing, content marketing more, and lead generation is another area. So trying to put out resources that customers find value with and see if we can actually help out customers in need. Those are predominantly some of the areas that we work with. And the fourth is obviously outbound, planning for it, seeing who are the right customers that we can look at to target and see if any customer will truly appreciate the value we bring to the table and can benefit from it. So that's typically the day, like it's structured into 4 or 5 parts.
Nice. No, I think you wear a lot of hats in terms of all the areas that you're overseeing in your efforts to broaden that prospect base, broaden the knowledge base and the funnel. So I appreciate you sharing that. In terms of industry trends, what major shifts are you seeing in the industry right now? And we could break it down into what was the old way, what are people doing today with all the self-serve AI that is out there, and then not to sound too cocky, but what is the right way, right? So tell us a little bit about those three, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think first off, I think if we all knew the right way, it would be less complicated. But I assume that what we are thinking along is on the right direction to help customers gain value. But just to give you some context, especially with the IT service management and the customer support stage, buying was traditionally clunky and it was not an organized process. So traditionally, we have seen if an IT team is looking for a platform today, and I saw this on LinkedIn. This is really funny that I saw this on LinkedIn just like a couple of days back, wherein there's a person who just posted, you know what, I'm looking for an ITSM tool that solves for XYZ. Within an hour, you have 100 comments from 100 different platforms. And
Sure.
I'm sure that person's DM has like about 200 messages. So imagine that buyer's journey from here, right? They have to shortlist probably the top 5 vendors that they want to talk to, explain the requirements 5 times over, probably sit on 5 different calls, 5 different demos. Do they have time to entirely evaluate a tool before purchase? 5 different tools? Not really. They're not going to have the time because they have other things to do. That's exactly where we feel a lot of teams are wasting time and they don't buy with confidence, if I may put it that way. So they are just hoping. And we've seen this often in our professional services career where 6 months in, they realize one small nuance is not there in the tool. And then they have to rethink their entire strategy around the process that they have framed. And that disappoints the customer and that creates like a friction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we wanted to bridge that gap. And what happened with the influx of AI is that everything is now becoming, what do you call it? Everybody wants something new with AI. Everybody wants to adopt it. In fact, funnily enough, I was reading a state of AI report by McKinsey, which said about 88% of companies have piloted AI in some form, but only 1/3 are actually proceeding with some kind of like, focus and project, which means AI or like any kind of SaaS tool, for it to win, requires adoption, not just purchase, right? And it requires a longer cycle of trust and like, work with customers. And that's an area that is broken today.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought if we could be that one trusted partner who can come in right from a stage where the customer is discovering a product. So imagine all of these chaos that I explained to you: 200 emails, 100 comments, 5 tools to pick from. Now, I'm sure you've been a digital transformation leader. And if you had to sit down and like, you know, make a checklist out of it, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yes.
Now, wouldn't it be helpful if somebody who's an expert from outside said, hey, you know what? Let's not waste your time. We'll help you choose with confidence. Let's come and do it for you. We understand your processes. We map the requirements. We build the POCs. We build the demos. You look at the demos. You coordinate with one person instead of like 5 or 10. And then if you see value, we list down the features, do a competitive analysis and say, how does multiple tools compare with your requirements, budget, integration ecosystems, end to end? The tool is not just evaluated from like a demo, but to the T with whatever requirements that are needed. That saves time
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of money because shifting to a new product or buying a new product is a lot of investment, and nobody wants to repeat that process. You ask anybody, would they want to deploy a product and change? Their answer is going to be no. But do they change? Most of them do after the initial contracts. That's because they don't find something there of value or they don't know how to adopt it best. Like I said, I think SaaS Genie's vision is very simple. We come in, help the customer choose the right product, implement the right product, and make sure that we stay there to optimize the right product. So we want to be throughout the journey. I call it the customer 360. So we are one partner who does everything end to end. That's what separates us. And like I said, we do it with AI accelerators in place. So we are genuinely affordable and we do it putting customer in mind. Like, for example, data migrations are not as complex as it seems because it's affordable, it's cheaper, it's no code with us. And so that's typically the value that we offer. And I'd say, like I told you, we are at the right time in the right place because everything is moving to LLMs. Typically, I'm sure you would Google a couple of years back before the advent of ChatGPT on like, hey, what are the top 10 tools for, say, ITSM? And it's going to give you, Google's going to throw you the person who bid the most for that particular keyword,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Today information is changing. Today, you have to truly provide value and content to be discovered on LLMs. And that means you have to truly provide value, stand out, and create content or create a brand that people trust. And yeah, so that's where we are at today. And just to double down on the point that I just said, right? Even OpenAI, for that matter, I don't know if you heard this news, recently announced a consulting wing. They are offering $10 million consulting for like, I think, Fortune 500 enterprises. What does that say? ChatGPT is probably the most simplest tool in the world. But when you put that tool in context with an enterprise's data and architecture, a lot of it changes. That's what most people misunderstand about buying a tool today. You see a demo of the tool in my ecosystem, you're going to see that, oh, this seems flawless. The minute you plug your data to it, everything changes because your data is in a completely different format. You work a completely different way. So it's important for people to like gain confidence with that. As of today, I see that they don't have time or resources or energy to do it because these are not dedicated teams that are just in, are responsible for procurement. So yeah, I think that's precise. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I think the
Absolutely.
right way would be to outsource it to a trusted partner. I'm not saying that's the only way, but even if they're able to afford somebody in-house who can take time to do whatever is necessary, then buying decisions will be smart and the value will be multiplied.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys are onto something for sure, because it seems like you go in with a consulting mindset where you're doing an assessment or discovery, and then you're finding the right gap fit. You're helping by hand-holding, deploying the solution, and then looks like you have a managed services portion where you stick around to make sure that how it fit on day one and day 100 and day 500 has not changed, and you're evolving the tool to make sure that any environmental changes are incorporated well, or are considered when in the long term evolution of the managed component.
Absolutely. I think any CFO is going to ask one question when renewal comes, right? Hey, you're
Yes.
paying 500,000 to this product.
Yeah.
How much are you getting back? And
Right.
if in our case, because we are catering to like IT and CX, if a IT leader is not able to answer that question, that means it's a problem and there's a visibility issue, not necessarily a product issue. And we want to change that. And the we want customers to evolve cumulatively with product and exponentially with product. How they were on day one of go live versus how they are on day 300 of go live should not be the same, right? It should not have the same benchmarks, and it should be constantly evolving, and optimizing is key. And you were bang on when you said, those are the areas, and that's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah. In terms of the trend recently, right, with all the LLMs and the AI that has entered the mass market, whether from a consumer perspective or a enterprise perspective, how has this trend impacted your business and your growth strategy?
I think it's a massive transformational shift at the minute. I'd still say Google is pretty much like what do you call it, has a monopoly on this. But I think this year things have massively changed. For example, what we are realizing is most of the top of the funnel or the middle of the funnel queries are being searched on LLMs, are being conversations on like the likes of GPT, AI mode, Perplexity, and all of these platforms, which means that buyer decisions are going to be influenced via GPT or LLMs, if that makes sense. So as brands, your focus is going to obviously shift from like just Google to, being visible on LLMs, making sure that customers get the right information about your brand, not necessarily manufactured information, but if I am providing a certain service and if the customer is prompting for that service or inquiring about that service, if I don't show up, I'm losing revenue. And that's basically what's changed this year for us. I think luckily enough, we started a lot of our marketing activities like beginning of this year. So we were able to ride in the early wave of answer engine optimization along with search engine optimization, which really helped us. So yeah, I think that's one of the predominant factors. I see, for example, if you take our current scenario, if I look at a lot of like comparisons that are being searched between tools, most of them are happening on like LLMs, close to like about 1,000 citations we are getting on like a monthly basis at the minute with the content that we do. And if you look at what's really being searched, if somebody wants to move from a ServiceNow to another platform, for example, say a ServiceNow to Halo, they are searching that not on Google. They're searching that on answer engines right now. So if you're not showing up there, or if your product is not showing up there, or service is not showing up there, that means that you're missing out on potential revenue. And I think the latest update is that they have started embedding apps into ChatGPT, which means that you can trial a product, you can chat with like GPT on what the product does, and probably swipe your credit card right then and there. That means that it's all the more important that, we take that seriously. So that's definitely something that's on top of our minds. And I think one of the greatest challenges that we have, or like, for example, any business has, is how do you know when somebody is looking out for a product?
Mhm.
If it's a product company, I'm sure they have demo signups. So people are gonna like go to the website and sign up for demos. How do you, as a consult for somebody like us who are consulting with customers, helping customers navigate through the challenge of buying, how do we discover them? That's still a very important challenge, which is why understanding what customers are looking for or searching for or prompting for makes a lot more sense just in terms of data for us to capture, so that our growth strategy and content strategy is tailored around what customers actually want. So we build something with intent rather than the other way around, hoping we write something and hope and pray that customers are looking for this. So that's the slight shift in mindset. Uh, Typically, I'm sure you know about this. Typically, an SEO search would be, hey, I want to write for this keyword. And you look at the volume. And if there's a significant amount of volume, you just write a blog with these keywords. Just not that anymore. It's a lot more different. You have to think about how a person types questions on ChatGPT, and are you showing up for those questions if it's relevant to you? Uh, that's definitely changed for startups.
Yeah. No, for sure. In terms of where you guys are today, what's working well for you right now, and what's been challenging?
I think, like I rightly said, I think we were lucky to catch on early in the content strategy and the AEO SEO wave. So I believe that we have set up, because we have just built a team around recently, it's easier for us to like set up these processes from scratch. And I would say personally, scaling in a bootstrap startup with limited resources, what we've done well is like basically adopted multiple agentic platforms to amplify the work in the volume that we are looking for. The growth that we are aiming for requires a pretty large workforce that we cannot afford at the minute, um, because we have a solid tech stack in place. So just to give you some insight there, I think we spend about less than $2,500 per month to run our entire inbound and outbound.
Okay.
And we are able to do that today because AI is able to do much more than traditional products did. So that's definitely something that's a strength. And just from like a business perspective, I think our delivery record is quite brilliant. I think our time to value is around 95%, which is great. And almost like 94 or 95% of the customers who work with us have given us like a 5-star CSAT. So our delivery team is really killing it. So that's good news. And that gives us more confidence to move from, say, mid-market to enterprise. That's precisely where we are at. And the challenge is exactly that too, because how do you scale, your professional services in a way where you're able to cater to enterprise customers whose thought process, whose buying cycle, and whose delivery cycle in itself is long? And how do you give your added AI incentive to them is going to be very key. And I think that's where our focus is. And I think we are learning about that every day and like improving every day. The second understanding, or like the learning that I've personally had from like a growth standpoint, that I would say, I don't know if you're seeing it with the clients that you're working for, but in-person events, even if it's like as simple as like roundtables, are working really, really well. And I think that's an area where we need to double down on for 2026 as we plan for 2026. And we want to meet more customers, build that relationship and trust with them. And that's definitely top of the tree. And I've also seen this very interesting trend where customers don't engage with you unless they truly see value.
Okay. Yes.
So one of the interesting things that we did is, you know what, let's educate. And so we have started like our Adopt and Adopt series, which is basically anybody who's using any of our partner products. We are running like monthly webinars where people can come and learn about, a particular aspect of the product, how to optimize it, adopt it better. And by talking about real-time challenges, we are hoping if somebody resonates to it and they have a problem, they get in touch with us. If not, they learn something on the go and they see value, we register as a brand. So those are some of the things that we are trying to do. My
That's
learnings
good.
as well.
Yeah, and scaling to enterprise is definitely a challenge when you're coming from an SMB space, and with the buying cycles, I think there definitely needs to be more of earning buyer trust needs to be a little more expedited, right? Because like you said in the beginning of the podcast, that they're probably getting a lot of DMs and messages and people trying to sell to them, and you standing apart largely deals with your GTM and what kind of marketing collateral and knowledge you're putting out there, if you will. Which
That's
metric
right.
are you focused most on improving?
There are a couple of things. One's definitely MQL to SQL conversion is key.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's definitely something that we want to really, really improve on and work on. I think it's good right now, but it could be definitely way better as we scale. The second is our click-through rates. when all the citations happens on the blogs and like on our website via Google as well, because impressions versus click through actually tells us something about, the quality of content that we are doing. While we are getting a lot of citations, those don't necessarily turn into click. For example, if you search on GPT, you're not necessarily clicking the source from which GPT is citing. So how do we improve that, or how do we work on that? It's a really new area. So that's definitely something that we are working on. Off the top of my mind, I think these are the two things, but we also have keyword coverage overall in mind. We want to improve our top of the funnel traffic. So I think this year we went from like 0 to 3,000 visitors per month. We want to touch down on like 10,000 by end of next year, hopefully. So I'd say those are the broad things that I'm looking at the minute.
No, that's very valuable. It's always it's great to have these conversations with marketers that know their numbers and where they want to be. Because from a growth strategy perspective, right? You and I both know that kind of helps us determine where you want to be, and then work backwards with that MQL to SQL, and making sure that you're right on the numbers as far as where do you want to be in terms of customer acquisition and where you are right now. You're the guy that has those answers, so that's
Absolutely.
great. Um, if for the sake of our audience, what does your ideal customer look like?
Like for different modules that we spoke about, different personas, but if you like take IT service management, for example, these would be our CIOs, the
Okay.
head of ITs, the VP of ITs, the CTOs. These would be predominantly our ICPs that we're targeting. From like a customer experience perspective, it could be CXOs, global head of customer experience, head of customer support, head of contact center. All of these ICPs are like the right ICPs. And for anything PSA, a global head of professional services, head of onboarding, these are like some of our ICPs.
If you were to look back in 5 years, where would you be standing in terms of an organization? Where do you see um, 2030, 2031?
But I think aiming for the stars, we'd love to be a unicorn by that time. We'd love for customers and industry, I mean, like businesses to use our proprietary accelerators. Our aim is to productize it in the market. And so we want to run separate product engines out of that. And hopefully that actually amplifies delivery. Today, we are at about 500 plus clients worldwide. I would love that in 5 years to be somewhere around 5,000 or like 10,000, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think we'd more importantly like to be known as a company who genuinely cares for customers and solves customer problems. And I think that reputation is important for us. What I would ideally love is, hey, customer saying, hey, I have an IT problem, and somebody in the Reddit comment or somebody saying, hey, go to SaaS Genie, they'll help you with it. That's ideally where we want to be at.
Yeah. Well, that's I love it. I love where your head's at. So that basically means, if math, you want to double your customer base every year. If you want to be at 5,000 customers in 4 to 5 years, but that's awesome. If you had a magic wand to fix one thing in your business that's holding you back and slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
I'd say closed room bids, if that makes sense. Like oftentimes to scale to enterprise, you're competing with the giants, the Accentures, the Capgeminis, the TCS of the world. What we truly believe in is deployment should not be out of the roof in terms of budget. The stat is mind boggling, right? Most of them calculate total cost of ownership of a product with like subscriber licenses, but that's just the surface level or the tip of the iceberg, as you may call it, right? So I think what comes after, like if you need a dedicated architect to maintain that product, that's admin costs. If you need migration, if you need ongoing optimization, if you need integrations, who's going to do all of these things for you? These are all added costs. And like if you need support, for example, there are legacy enterprise tools that charge you for 24/7 support, and that's a hefty fee. And we think it's way too costly today, and customers are not being met with the right kind of value, and that's something that we think truly needs to change. And if I had a magic wand, I'll change that. I'll maybe force customers to look at other alternatives, and that can make their delivery affordable at the same time, faster and quicker, and that equips modern technology like AI to empower them. And it's a good mix where the strategy happens via the human, but like the redundant execution happens via AI. And that would be the most ideal world.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. In terms of, when you talk to these to your ICP, whether it's a CIO, CTO, head of transformation, whoever it is, when they pitch their cases to the funding committee, right, or the CFO office, or however they're structured, I think the common question is, okay, so John, you want to do this, and you think this is the right approach. Here's the $1 million question, right? What's the ROI? And when is the break even? So if there's from the 500 customers that you guys have helped on their journey today, if there's a sweet spot where you can say that, hey, you know what, this is what our ROI looks like, and we've seen an average of month 5 or month 10 or wherever it is that you're breaking even, to the alternative, which is bringing on consultants, name consultants, or picking up people from different teams and putting them on a full-time basis on the migration effort or whichever effort it is that the problems you guys are solving. What does that timeline, the dream timeline, looks like, or the ideal timeline look like?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question that you're asking. Just to give you context, right? If you take an enterprise platform, for example, if you take the likes of a ServiceNow or a Salesforce, if you want to see ROI, you're looking at a minimum time of like at least a year for like a bare minimum implementation that's easy. And if you're looking at like more complicated enterprise level implementations, you're looking at probably years before you can even start measuring ROI. Our whole goal with partnership with the tools or like the companies that we partner with is the fact that they offer, a fewer buyback time or a lesser buyback time in essence in terms of ROI. So most of the tools that we partner with offer ROI within like 3 to 6 months of purchase, right? And our job is to not necessarily disrupt that, but to make sure that the customers get there on time. And how we do that is a very important question that you ask. So we use something called as a value engineering framework when we work with customers. Again, value is very subjective, right? So it depends on the KPIs of that particular IT leader. Like, for example, you asked me what are the top 3 things that are important to me in like 2026, and I gave you top 3. In the next podcast, you're going to hear a marketing leader say completely something different that's got nothing to do with what I said. It's similar, right? I think everybody's meaning of ROI is going to look different, but on like a surface level, it's simple. Like the question, like, hey, what's the spend versus what's the outcome? Can you justify it? And in however way or form that is applicable to the customer, we are able to do that today because we value engineer. For example, we automate something redundant. As simple as, like, for instance, we recently completed an implementation for Intercom where for an EdTech customer where we did 70% of our queries were being answered by AI.
Okay.
70%. That's like the bulk of like, so imagine a head count taking like, probably if you put that from like a head count perspective, that would be 3 to 5 additional resources bare minimum. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going very conservatively.
Yep.
So imagine their yearly salaries for the year, plus the time that they take to reply and the hours that you're paying for them. So it's a very tangible calculation. The myth that I want to break is that it's not possible to, you know, calculate the ROI. It is possible. It's just about having structured goals. And once we have that, we can have destinations as well. So, for example, a lot of customers that we work with, we ask them, hey, here's where you are at in this particular area. For example, let's take automation for the sake of this. How much percentage of your IT tickets are you automating today? And if the customer says, hey, you know what, our automation is 0 today, we say, hey, within 2 months, we can get you to 30%, depending on like the kind of issues that you get and of which how much can be automated with AI or automation, likewise. And if they do the 30%, what's their cost saving looking like is something that we are able to project and show them. And at the end of those 30 days, if we are able to like say, here's what we promise, here's what's looking like today in terms of like, how much you automate, and this is what, is the impact on the cost, that automatically convinces the IT leader to go and do the presentation that, this is what we've done as an IT team. That's all they want to. They're not trying to fight you saying, hey, you know what, I don't agree with you. As long as your goals and their goals are like going to match, it's not a problem. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah. I think it would be so valuable, and this is just me brainstorming, right? It would be so valuable if there is an LLM based calculator where your prospect that's considering you, or if you were able to build like a white paper that says, hey, prospect X and Y had this situation, they wanted to go from A to B, and these were all their variables that they were considering. We measured ROI using our tool, and it showed as 16 months to 20 months, whatever it is, and basically model like that to enable the customer to plug in their variables. And if it's LLM based, there's already an intelligence component, right? And so you're asking them, hey, how many resources would you have put on this if you do this your way? What is the average hourly rate of your resource? Takes all these things into consideration, and then it gives them a range, because you don't, not all, like you said, every customer is different. You're not going to price it the same way. You're not going to scope it the same way. It's going to be different. So I don't know, for what it's worth, I feel like that LLM that does the math for you, or for the customer to convert that MQL to an SQL to start that conversation, I think would drive a lot of value just immediately.
No, absolutely. I think I totally agree with you. We have not thought of it from like an LLM perspective. That's an interesting angle that you've brought out and definitely something to think about. What we did was whatever you said is in the form of a landing page of sorts. We've just piloted one of those things, but I completely agree with you. If there's a way where they can see or like have some kind of a projection on what the value is, be it any business, like you're rightly saying, I think that's going to create some kind of curiosity to at least come and have a conversation. And that's all you want from a customer, right? I
Exactly.
think if you make them curious enough to see that we may be a fit to solve that problem, that's
Yeah, and it can be a potential answer to your MQL to SQL conversion problem.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
No, this has been great. Reed, thank you for sharing all the insights that you have. And, the data definitely helps a lot in terms of how our viewers would be looking at you guys if they were to check out the podcast. And it's been it's been wonderful having those insights to be shared from somebody at your level that it knows the data, that's has spent so much time in the industry and has understood customer behavior and helped build this offering. So definitely appreciate you being with us. Is there any closing comments, any nuggets that you would like to leave our viewers with?
No, I mean, absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on this podcast. I think it's really been a fun conversation. I love talking about anything growth, marketing, and obviously what we do is really, really, we are very passionate about what we do at SaaS Genie. So it's a good opportunity to for kind of like let the customers know, or more people know about what we are doing. And I just like to say, if you guys resonated with what we said, feel free to check out our website, follow me on LinkedIn, and happy to chat if you have any questions on generally SaaS Genie, or like if you have any questions on marketing, feel free to leave that too. And likewise, check out Growth Amped as well. Ayan's got a great background and he's working with a lot of like interesting clients. So yeah, you have any growth questions, and if you're struggling with something, like he just gave me a tip right now on the podcast, so a chat might be useful. So yeah, that's all I'd love to say. And for anybody who's listening, and thank you so much for taking time to listen to us. And it's holiday season, so I wish you all a great holiday season and a great year ahead that's coming up.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Ree, for being here and taking time on a weekend. It's much appreciated, and looking forward to more great conversations with you in the near future. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.